Today I'm going to be talking about a loan assumption and subject to, and how these are two completely different things when you're talking about real estate. Let's get right into it. Now, the difference between loan assumption and subject to is one, you have to qualify, and the other, you can go through title company and get it done. But first, I want to talk about subject to. So what is subject to? On a piece of property, there is two things. There is a note and there is a deed. Now, the deed reflects ownership of the property and the note reflects the debt. So we're going to put this right here. This is the debt and this is the ownership. Now, a lot of people don't understand this, but these two things can be separated. So when you're talking about a subject to, ideally a subject to, we are not notifying the bank. However, we are still going to go through title to make sure that we're protected, make sure that there's no other liens on the property, make sure the sellers are actually the sellers. Now, there's different ways to go about this, but I want to teach it and show you as simple as possible. So for example, if there's this property and these people owe, let's say they owe $100,000 at a 3% interest. Well, where interest rates are at right now, you are not going to see 3% interest rates. So the reason why you would want to buy subject to the existing mortgage is because you are buying the cost of debt. How much money, the money borrowed, that's what you're leveraging. So through a subject to deal is I am not going to notify the bank. However, what I'm going to do is I am going to take on ownership of the property. So this seller is now going to transfer this to me. So now I own this, and we're going to leave the note in place of the seller. So I'm going to continue to make payments on this note. I am not going to notify the banks. I don't need no credit. I don't need no credentials. And most of the time, you don't need any money out of pocket to do this. However, some people might comment, well, Chris, what about closing costs? What about money to the seller? All that good stuff. This is where you come into leverage, PMLs, private money lenders, where you're able to borrow other people's money, OPM. However, that's a whole nother subject that I want to save. It's very important that you do your due diligence when it comes to these types of deals. But I just want to show you how simple it is. This is as simple as you going to the county and filing a deed transfer that's probably going to cost you about $24. It's a deed transfer. You could Google it. You could go to your attorney. You go to title company. There's so many ways to get a deed transfer. You fill out the paper. The seller signs the ownership because a note, the debt of the property, and the ownership of the property can be separated. These two you can separate. Now, this is going to be on a sub to deal, on a subject to. Now, versus an assumption. And I am not too sure if this is how you spell this, but I'm going to hope this is how you spell it. Now, assumption is there is now a process that you have to go through. Not one property have I ever bought via assumption. And the reason why is now you have to go through the bank. This is where you notify the bank. And what is the bank going to ask for? The bank is going to ask for credit. They're going to ask for proof of funds, proof of financial stability. They're going to make sure that you qualify for this loan. They are going to try to qualify you. Now, in this case, it's a longer process. Is this still possible for you to go out there and go acquire a house like this? Yes. However, for myself, I am trying to avoid all of this at all costs. Versus subject to, which is very, very simple. I am just transferring the deed to my name. I am not notifying the bank. Most of the time, I am going through a title company to make sure I am getting title insurance, to make sure they are the actual owners of the property, to make sure there's no other liens on the property. And it's basically to another stack of protection. So I am taking over the deed and leaving the loan in place versus an assumption. Now that loan, I got to get qualified, and now that debt is going to go to my name versus a subject to. Now, loan assumption is more complicated versus subject to. If you learn something, all I ask is for you guys to comment down below and which way you would rather go out there and buy properties. For me, I am always going to go via subject to, and the reason why, it is very, very simple. It's very beneficial to all parties involved in the deal. And you got to remember, when you're going to buy a house via subject to, more than likely these people have some sort of issue. I always say anybody that is selling has a problem. It's just up to you to identify what that problem is. So again, if you like this video, if you gained something, I ask you to share it with somebody. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on our next video. Let's grow, baby.